right, welcome everybody. I think everybody's here for now. Craig said he would be a little late. This is a workshop to further consider the 2354 Route 9 Plan Development District. We've had this before us and it went to the planning board, and the planning board had several recommendations, and then that legislation, the applicant has proposed some PDD legislation, and that's what we're considering tonight. We do have an extra copy of the original program. So I'll just get started. One thing is, we're gonna end this meeting by 5:30 at the latest, so. We get it all done, it's 4:30, go home. So a couple of things that were concerning with us, as you know, we are updating our plan development district language in the process of it. And we found that really, for the most part, this complies with what the proposed new legislation is. A couple of little things, but I mean, one of the biggest things is we're going to expand the role of the planning board in the process, and you've included that in this language. You met most of the recommendations of the planning board. We did talk about a couple of them that, I mean, obviously, one of the things is that we're planning to take out of the PDD language is the requirement for workforce, because nobody can really come up with a formula to make that really workable. And the only other thing was the sprinkler, the recommendation about sprinkling, but in the end, it's going to meet all New York State fire codes. So as much as we would love to see every single building in that sprinkled, someday we might have to change that law, so you'd be forced to do it, but.
The reality is the majority of them will.
Well, but right. So the condos and the apartments
for sure.
will be sprinkled.
Yep. And any townhouse units, 33 units or more also.
Right. Town attorney had some specific sections that are gonna need to be added. I can share those with you later. Performance bond, fee, severability, effective date, lawyer stuff. And he may have stuff to add. Anyway, last week, we met with staff and went through the legislation and came up with a couple of things that we note of concern. Basically, the first one is the 5-foot setbacks. We would like to see those, we think they're too small, they're too tight. We'd like to see those setbacks be a minimum of 10 feet. The place that it gets to be problematic is underneath your folder, basically where you've got those 3 single family in the middle. I mean, those are pretty tight. So those might have to be modified some, but.
That was the primary concern was with respect to the single families?
No, everything. Well, the single families and the townhouses, you've got 5 to 0. We'd like to see both of those be 10 minimum.
0 would be obviously.
Obviously, right, the 0's the 0, right.
Okay. Yeah, so you wanna see-
Just on that, just to be clear, it's 5 feet for each one, so there would be 10 feet between structures?
Yes, it would be,
Okay, just wanted-
it'd be 20 feet between structures.
20 or 10? He's asking.
10 setback from the property line,
20 overall.
20 overall. Then, as far as the architecture goes, on page 4, I guess it's just, well, whatever it is, the design elements. Planning staff would like to see some sort of architecture stuff that basically follows the form-based code. So you'd have, color palettes and materials and all of that for the planning board to consider. So we figure your engineer is pretty familiar with the form-based code, so, try to give more detail, huh?
Okay, give her that.
Also, with design, so that's the architecture, with respected design elements. You don't show it on the rendering, but we'd like to see, interior sidewalks on the proposed town road.
We did address the sidewalks, and it talked about sidewalks being at the discretion of the planning board, and so that Some places it may only be required on one side, other places it would be on both sides, and this was really something that would be determined at the planning phase.
Yeah.
We can put it on here, but the reality is that we think that that gets
Well.
addressed more intimately with the planning board.
I mean, when we talked about it, we thought that the west side would be the most reasonable place,
The west side.
the west side. But again, if the planning board disagrees, I don't have any problem with that.
She wanted to
Yeah,
see,
you actually need to talk into a microphone too, Jeff, when you talk.
so
It's-
you wanted,
You
go
need
ahead.
to turn it on.
Which button, I'm not sure.
There you go.
So you wanted to see sidewalks on the main town road on
I mean,
the
yeah,
west side?
I mean, ultimately, you'd have to put those in for the planning board anyway.
Right, yep,
So we just questioned it because we didn't see them.
yep.
And then again, that's up to the approval of the planning board
Yep.
when it comes up.
Okay.
They're recommending that a tree area constructed along the trail that's supposed to go to the Zim Smith, so this internal trail.
Mm-hmm.
So down here where you don't have any trees, they'd like to see that. We talked about that being treed from the community center, around the community center.
Well, let me ask you this. So the idea was that to have the community center here, some parking, and have this be some potential for some active recreation. So I don't know that we would want to put, if we had a trail kind of meandering through here, not so much, but maybe a trail that goes on one side or the other. Would that be acceptable? Just because I think it would be great to have the ability to have, as we talk about, maybe it's pickleball, maybe it's a little, I don't know what it is. It's different types of uses within an area that could be for active recreation, so.
Wedding tent.
What?
Be a
wedding
wedding tent.
A wedding tent, right. I mean, who knows what it could be, right? So this is the things that we could do out there.
Pop it up.
So,
Do they want vegetation along the trail, or do they want screening?
I think it was just for aesthetics purposes, that would be nice, but you're right. I can see the value in having that as open space
around the community center so
recreation, right?
people can gather.
Throw a Frisbee or,
yeah, and then having the trees in the way to do that, right? Throw the Frisbee, throw the football, whatever it is,
Yeah.
wiffle ball, whatever it might be. Okay, but you would like to see, maybe we relocate that trail. I don't know what that looks like. Again, just trying to look at how this impacts the potential users down the road.
Right.
You know, okay.
And then do you expect that trail to go all the way to the Zim Smith? And do you, to the trolley tracks, and do you have any idea about, one of the other things that we saw missing is that it doesn't really have any details about how it's gonna be. Will it be ADA compliant? It's difficult terrain for ADA
Can't do
compliance.
that. I think,
Be
I think
stone
with,
dust or,
yeah, I think with new regs, what it's gonna have to be is a natural trail. So whether it's,
yeah,
it's wood chips or something along those lines, only because with the new regulations with DEC, I don't
Right.
think that you're gonna be able to do anything. Matter of fact, we talked about this on another project at one point, and stone dust,
Yeah.
is not
I
an
mean,
acceptable.
really, anything, it's gonna be
Can't be
problematic.
Asphalt connecting to the Zim Smith.
No.
Why not?
DEC would not allow it.
Yeah,
She won't.
Yeah, yep, yep. So we are doing, you know, so we are doing some sort of the trail along the Route 9. This was meant to be kind of a more of a natural trail
Right.
to the greatest extent
Right.
possible, I think. So,
another thing that we were concerned about, it's nice, you've left a nice buffer between Malta Gardens, the manufactured home park, and the apartments, but we want to be sure that that's 100% opacity. So if you
100%?
find a place where there's not enough vegetation, or the vegetation doesn't look healthy, you might have to put up some fencing, or to make sure that that's, you know, right now, on your rendering, it looks fine, but I don't really know what's out there. You know, sometimes sometimes leaving it as no cut is not the most beneficial, depending on what's growing out there. That makes sense?
yeah. No, I get it. I mean, opacity in the summertime or the wintertime? Because, you know, there's a big difference.
There is a big
between-
difference, yeah.
You know, and quite frankly, screening is actually usually a lot more attractive than a big ugly fence.
Yeah.
But you want 100% opacity?
It was the recommendation of the planning staff, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, save that one for later. Lighting, we talked about the lighting. Obviously, the lighting prep is gonna have to be approved by the planning board. So pedestrian lighting, the single-family homes, we would like to see actual lights in the single-family homes, you know, little street lights in front.
Yard lights.
Yard lights.
The posts.
Right, yard lights, so.
You said that on the property or on?
in front of each single-family home.
And that's common.
We would
Right.
do that
Yeah.
for sure, yeah, yeah.
And then we talked about solar lighting at each of the intersections,
Solar
where the,
lighting.
yeah, where the road meets the town road.
Is there some, a particular spec that you were looking to have, or? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Because you're required to light your intersections anyway. We're helping you with National Grid
Okay, thank you.
and town
National Grid, thanks you.
lighting districts.
We get credits.
Okay, all right, okay.
So one of the other things, I have a question, is we talked earlier when we first looked at this plan about the fact that there's not an 80-foot right-of-way onto
Right.
Route 9. Again, not a deal breaker,
Yeah.
but the rest, it looks like on the rendering, the rest of the road is 80 feet.
It's 60 feet.
It's 60 feet from beginning to,
60 feet. The only place it is not is right at the access onto Route 9.
and so
in the
that's not
southern-
even 60?
It's about 57, I think. I
think so, yeah.
About 57. We have had discussions with the project
Right.
adjacent, and they have not been amenable to working with us thus far. So we're at 57 right now. We had that, at the workshop meeting we had last time, we talked about this, and I think we demonstrated that 60 is more than wide enough to get in the sidewalks and the utilities and so forth, just in this area here. So it is 60 feet, yeah. Yep. But that is 57
Somebody's
up
not going
there.
to like that.
I know that, I know that. I understand, I understand.
I mean, again, it's, you know, it's up to us in this sort of situation to
That's right.
have those guidelines, so, the you know,
I
the
understand.
planning board will have some talk over that. I mean, we did talk about how we'd like to see access into the other project to
Right.
the south.
Yeah.
They shut us down.
Even for that?
Yeah, which makes no sense. you know,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, technically that would have been a town road. And instead they have a private road that adjoins what would be a town road. And for whatever reason, they didn't want to couple the two. I mean, they just, I know Jeff got shut down, I got shut down.
Yeah, we made several appeals to them in saying this makes sense, one road
Try
instead
to
of,
talk into the microphone.
one road instead of two, a town road, as opposed to a private road. Scott had discussions with them, and he's also their engineer, and, looked for a meeting. There's multiple partners within the organization, and the one that we initially talked to, was amenable, but his other partners were not, and we tried to get meetings, and they just did not want to entertain, any changes at this point. So we'll continue to try.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that we've tried extensively. Scott's tried, I've tried, Jeff's tried, and they didn't seem to be really open to
I
it.
don't understand
don't-
that, it makes no sense.
I know,
Zero.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be better for everybody that way.
I agree. That's what we said. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
And
So,
if, you know, I don't think the DOT would be preferable to another curb cut on Route 9 either.
right. I don't think they can deny us, but I think that they would certainly be much more
Yeah.
receptive to having one access instead of two. So we'll continue
Are
to
there
push.
internal roads proposed to be private roads? Yeah.
They
They
are.
they don't have any town road at all.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a town road, so
Right, right.
it seems like that would make more sense, so.
It seems like it, yeah.
We're talking about the trail along Route 9. We want where possible, we'd like that to be 10 feet,
10?
like our pedals, that's what our pedals is.
Wow,
There
last
may-
it was 8 feet.
There may be places where that's not possible.
Okay.
You know, based on the terrain. We're also recommending that, are you proposing for this to be phased at all?
The project will end up being phased at some
Okay.
point. I don't know what that phasing looks like,
Yep.
but it would be
It'll be phased. We want the trail to be in
phase
phase one,
one, okay.
because in case phase 2 never gets built.
There was an error in the PDD language as well, and it talked about maintenance, and we had talked about this along the way, that there was no way that the development, it's on page 5, and it's in the E at the bottom, third sentence down, it talks about the 2,800 foot of sidewalk along Route 9 being maintained by the HOA. That was a mistake. We have talked about that here with the board. There's no way that we could go and maintain that. We think that whether it's the town or the DOT, whether the town code requires the folks in front of it to do it. So if the town said, whoever has the frontage, they'd be responsible for maintenance or clearing the snow, we understand that, but to do all 2,800 feet, that's not something that was gonna be part of the HOA.
I don't think that was that ever something that we envisioned?
It was
them
not.
taking care of it?
It was not.
Okay,
It was a
yeah.
mistake.
I
It
didn't
was
think
our
so.
mistake putting it
Yeah.
in the code. And funny, we all reviewed it and none of us caught it. I
Yeah.
caught it when I was going through it
Yeah.
again the last minute today, so I just wanted to make you aware of it. Yep.
So the other part is, you talk in here about where it's not possible, where you can't get the owners
Right.
Easements.
to agree, the easements,
right.
giving us a cash in lieu of. We want to be sure that that cash in lieu of is the cost of the town to construct it. Obviously, we have to pay prevailing wage.
Okay.
So our engineer will determine what the cost would be to the town for that payment in lieu of. So,
I mean, personally, we would prefer to be able to put it in if we could work it
Yeah.
out with and there's only a few areas, we talked about this, there's only a limited number of areas that we have these challenges where the right of way is not big enough,
Right.
the topography doesn't allow for it. We would prefer to do the whole thing and have it done, honestly. I don't want
We-
to pay
we would
prevailing
prefer
wage.
that you do
I
the
know
whole
you
thing and
would.
have it
I know,
done.
I know. Maybe you can help us with the residents, yes.
I mean, it seems to me that it'd be a good benefit for the residents that are there, but, people are funny.
Well, here's the way I look at it, when we have to sit down and start talking with them, we're asking for an easement across the front of their property,
Right.
which doesn't impact their setback for future building. If in fact, someone comes along and takes it by eminent domain, which could happen, now your setback gets moved back to the other side of where that area is. I think it's a win for the residents to have that out there, and it's commercial area along the path,
Right.
which ultimately for them, when they sell it, it's good to have that
Right.
access to all the residences. I think it's
And
a
then-
win for them as well.
They can use the path.
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
We talked
Can I just go back to the 10-foot? What was the
Yeah.
change? Because that was originally 8 feet when we had talked about it.
I don't know. I thought that at the time, but planning staff heard differently, so they would like it to match up.
10 said it was to be built to match up with Pebbles Grant
Okay, okay.
design.
I know that we used 8 because when we went through looking at the right-of-way and the distances in there and what could fit and what would not fit, it was 8, and for whatever reason, that's the number that we thought we were using and had you guys asked for. Because we initially proposed concrete, and then it jumped up to 8 feet of asphalt.
Right.
So I think the 10 feet will make it a little bit more restrictive. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you're open to some areas that if it doesn't
Right.
fit, you're.
Areas where it
Okay,
doesn't fit,
okay.
which obviously, I mean, you can see driving down there, there's areas where
There are,
10 feet
yeah.
won't work
Yep, okay,
because of whatever reason.
okay.
The planning board recommended a bus shelter. We're actively trying to get some public transportation here. We want to include some language that says that if at a later date, we actually do get transportation, we'd like to see a shelter built. So language that we wouldn't necessarily have to do it right away.
We would be responsible for building the shelter?
You just want a location?
We want regarding a bus shelter location, so,
And
a location along
You don't-
town, right?
you don't even have bus route right now.
What does that consist of? That cutting in off of 9 into the property for a bus lane? Right? I can't have a bus stop straight on Route 9, right? Or is that what the plan is?
Now you're looking for DOT
Along-
approvals and
a-
we're working at a state
A
highway
location along the town road,
Town
on the
road,
town road.
right,
probably near your clubhouse.
yeah,
That would make
Plan
sense.
For the future, if we do get.
if we do happen to get a bus route,
transportation
Off 9?
Off of
Oh,
9.
okay.
As you
I'm
pull
trying to
up,
visualize.
Okay,
So it's just an area designated for a bus.
yeah, for bus,
probably
right,
south side of area,
yeah.
south or
That-
north side of
That,
your.
that makes the most amount of sense.
yeah.
And
But,
so that proposed location, they would like to see it added in the appendices, so that obviously it's
easy
in
to
the legislation and it's,
so just a location for
For a
future,
bus.
okay.
yeah.
So it would give the town some sort of an easement or access in the future
In
should they
front
want
of
to
the
do it.
apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, that even could
We
be,
just gotta figure out a way that you can do a turnaround, right, for a bus to be able to,
Correct,
right? That's the only challenge there.
You're on the south side.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Town road,
Yeah, okay,
they won't even, they come in and come out.
gotcha, okay.
What you're saying?
We just use the town road.
They
Yep,
just-
go
right.
in and then loop all the way down and around, right? Yeah, okay, understood. Okay,
Okay, so, one of the things we talked about, and one of the things that's been a concern for, that we're planning to address in our legislation, is basically the sunsetting. You and your legislation are recommending that, and I'll read it.
6 years.
Yep, in the event that construction does not commence on any lands in this planned development district within 6 years of the effective date of site plan approval by the planning board. So it gives you time to get all through that without really any limitation. We all think that's a little too long, 6 years, We'd like to see that shortened. The recommendation is 3. But, I think planning staff is amenable to working with you a little bit on that.
Okay,
Am I correct? But 3,
We'll talk about it, right?
because like I say, this obviously getting first through us and then through the planning board, that'll take some time.
right.
And we recognize that, but 6 years after that seems excessive.
We're also concerned that if you never decide to go to the planning board, you've got legislation written, and 10 years, 15 years down the road, you still don't have somebody making site plan application.
Right,
We've had that happen.
couple of
You
times.
can't have that.
Gotcha.
PDD's created and nothing ever used. So somewhere there needs to be some kind of sunset. If no action is taken for site plan or vice versa.
Okay.
Or both.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, that helps.
Did I miss anything? Gloria did have some comments on stormwater, but I'm not sure if she's finalized those.
I don't remember.
I know, it was so long ago. And I don't know if Steve has any,
Well, I have comments that probably are premature now, is because I don't think that was intended to be final legislation to draft. and I think,
No, that's why we're here, to go through some of it. So if you have stuff that you want to suggest that we change,
Yeah, there's some specific things that I could probably put in email contact.
That'd be great.
Because it'll be
Yeah.
not a lot to waste time on, but
Sure.
on the more substantial items, they were more questions.
oh,
that I had.
Steve, you need let's get Steve a microphone. Okay, yeah, come on up.
Some of them were questions for the planning staff and the town board. But, for example, in the legislation, it discusses the formation of a drainage district. I don't know if that was the direction the staff and board wanted to go. We do have we have done it for other, but it's not a current requirement. So it's more of a discussion question, because it is provided for in the legislation, to make sure we're all on the same page with that. I did also have concerns about, in the draft language, it talks about a traffic study being completed. And I was concerned about the timing of that. Is that a town board action or a planning board action?
I thought it said it would be, it actually did address, I believe that it went for the planning board. I'm almost positive, we talked about going, it would be provided to the town board.
Right.
I think, but it was a planning issue.
Right, and I'm
Yeah,
just because this town board has had concerns with traffic in the past, I'm just pointing it out that if you want something different, then. Right,
I mean, the only thing I say on that is it's on a major state highway with 4 lanes back and forth next to the bypass. I know we're not, and we have talked to our traffic engineer, we're not even close to capacity down here.
which is good, but
Yeah,
Although,
you know, you have the internal road, you have the neighboring parcel, sort of the concerns with the width, the access to Route 9, but again, I don't think it's a discussion item. In other words, as contemplated, the traffic counts are just a piece of the overall flow of the traffic plan within the development. Obviously, planning staff is going to do that. In other applications in the past, it's been brought up at the last minute, which is a great delay and expense to the developer. So I'm just wanting our board to be on on the same page with you. If it's gonna go to the planning board, great, but don't then say, where's the traffic study? Last minute as you've spent more and more time on
I
the
mean,
project.
They should do preliminary traffic now,
analysis before,
because we are working on our townwide GEIS. This is a big project. They should at least give us number of trips in and out of this project,
Okay,
in my opinion, our opinion as planners.
okay.
We think we should see this at Plan Development District time, and then it can be updated when you go to planning board.
So just a number of trips now for the
I
proposed?
think you need
Okay.
a minimum of trip generation
Okay.
for how much.
That's easy. Yep, we can do that.
because one of the places where there is kind of an issue sometimes is coming off the bypass. And between the bypass and exit 11, you know, it gets kind of dicey down there. So you don't wait that long, but
Right,
again,
okay, okay, okay,
I agree with you. The Route 9,
yeah.
there should be plenty of capacity up and down Route 9.
So much,
but-
yeah. Can we just talk about the drainage district real quick? Steve brought it up. Can you talk about this a little bit? Because I know they had done it before and it was requested, and we did have a conversation at the last workshop with Roger, it was Roger, right?
Yeah.
Roger, and, I mean, I thought he was amenable to the drainage district. I think as Scott said, you know, who's got better experience doing it and making sure it's done properly than the town, so. But it would be a drainage district that was done, and then the town would maintain it, and then we would, right? That's what you're talking about doing.
Yeah, no, I know the couple of the last few projects.
Yeah.
They've set up a drainage district for as opposed to having an HOA or something along those lines. And like Jeff said, it's, in our opinion, it's way better for a town.
I mean,
this sort of thing.
particularly in a case like this where you're not going to have, it's not going to be an HOA. It'll be,
Right,
you know, multiple HOAs or
right.
whatever. And
and private.
And what we have found in the past is neighborhoods collect their HOA fees and then they spend it on other stuff. And there's no money left to do the drainage. And then so I personally am in favor of the drainage district. It ensures that the town has the money to make repairs when they're needed. I don't know how the comptroller feels about it. It's another whole account, but I think she can handle that. And I don't know, what do you guys think?
It's one little account.
Well, it's one little count, right. And basically it comes, it's just, you know, taxing.
Explain what a drainage district is.
So what a drainage district would be is they would set up a district, much like any other, like our water district or any of that. We did it with the Dunning Street residential. So every year on their tax bill, they pay basically an additional tax that goes into a fund. And we keep that money then to do the maintenance of the drainage district ourselves.
Specific to that location?
Yes.
Yes, it's specific to that location. So all of it would go into a fund that as maintenance needs to be done on the drainage system, the town of Malta has the money to do it.
This is similar to the Dunning.
It's exactly the same as the Dunning Street project. So I personally am in favor of that. I don't, like I said, I don't know how anybody else feels. I felt like Roger was agreed. Yeah,
The funds are collected through that HOA and then
no, they're collected through a tax.
a separate tax.
Yes. Like, you know, like we're doing with the water, basically to pay and lighting districts are the same. We have several lighting districts in town. We collect tax money.
Right.
And you're amenable to that, correct?
Yeah.
What would be the cost of that per individual? Hypothetical,
What is the impact? Yeah.
couple cents?
I don't know what it was, what is it in Dunning Street?
I don't recall.
Couple $100 a year, I think.
Yeah.
How much?
For Dunning,
How much?
couple $100 a year, but it depends on the type of stormwater practice.
Right,
That's
Underground
not for,
chambers are
couple
more
hundred's not for the individual,
No.
Yes,
for the individual.
yeah, because.
Oh,
that
for the
one-
single family, for the single family over there, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about,
And it's based upon the type of practice that it is. Underground chambers are very expensive. But a stormwater pond, the maintenance is gonna be less. It's above ground.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out
There's
what's the
special
cost to the
equipment
resident, that's all I'm trying to figure out.
needed. It's a very wide range cost.
and it appears that you're, you're not
Yes.
proposing one of those underground.
We're not, one thing to consider is whether it's an HOA or a drainage district, the cost is relatively the same. It shouldn't really be any different, it's just with the drainage district, in my opinion, there's a guarantee that that work is going to be done with
Right.
HOA, as Cynthia said, it's
Oh,
something that they might spend it on park benches instead of, or something, then.
As has happened, they spend it on other stuff.
No, that nice handshake saying we'll take care of it, and they don't take care of it, and then we
Yeah.
have to, that's
Yeah.
the bill.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, it's not one of those things that people, that residents look at. They look at the flowers and the snow and all that good stuff, right? Nobody's really concerned about it until it's a problem. That way the town actually takes care of it, and the money's there, it's just in the HOA,
Yeah.
you know? Okay, well, I just wanted to kind of go through that because Steve brought it up as a discussion item, so thanks for that, Steve.
I think we touched on this already, but the internal connectivity of the sidewalks, and I think there was a note from the planning board about school bus, not just CDTA, but locations for school bus. I don't know if that was marked
everything-
in here, but,
Well, but everything will be designed to accommodate the turning radiuses for all the vehicles, so that is already kind of in the design, but it will be addressed as we go through that process with planning, yes.
really for planning staff, the internal roads, is there parking on the internal roads, or is that not contemplated or required? So, go ahead.
Well, so on the apartments, it talks about the number of spaces and then one additional space for every 5 units so that you have some additional parking. So if you were to look at the site plan here, you'll notice every single unit in here has a garage, but then there's also additional surface parking outside to allow for guests and if there's a party or so forth. So there's additional in here. Same with these are all internal garages and then also surface parking out front of the garages. So I think there's adequate parking for all the units. We all know that if there's a big party, that occasionally someone's gonna park on the side of the road, you know?
Right, it's just a matter of, mine was just a question, is it something the town board feels is necessary? Are we satisfied with the parking? And that's all, it's not anyways a requirement, but if they want something different, it would obviously have to get put into the legislation. The other broad view items, you touched on the 2,800 square foot of sidewalk point. That was a question that I had about how that's being maintained, and so it's been raised already. The sunset provision was addressed. The other items that I want to be clear on is to enhance and clarify the deposit and purpose of if there is any cash in lieu payments, and to clearly define what's that's going to be used for. The other related to what I thought was not addressed was the town board to consider adding the estimated amount of the value of the public benefit. There's a lot of criticism that the town didn't get a good public benefit, but your cost in putting in this is very substantial. And I think we should be transparent about that in our legislation for future ones, if there are, that, hey, this is what we expect is a substantial contribution, and this is what it was. It's not a requirement, it's just something to consider. And for the town board, the deferred maintenance of any multi-use trail, we need to figure out it's great that we want these amenities. It's not really a developer issue, or at least not as contemplated now. But, they recognize their HOA can't possibly take care of this thing. So the likelihood is, if it's gonna be the town, what does that entail? What does it mean? What equipment? What other things? They're not a year one thing, but someone's gonna have to repurpose it, take care of it, so.
I mean, that's a great point, but it's also addressed with your Petals grant and all the other access to the town, right? The town, this is a benefit for all the residents in Malta.
Right.
So it's something that gets borne, their ongoing maintenance and responsibilities are a town-wide expense, I think, because it benefits not just the people in this development or Malta Gardens, but everybody in the town.
All right, I wasn't suggesting, Jeff, that would be in my view, an expense that you're anticipated.
No,
to-
I know.
But it's just, we love them, we want to do it, and then how do we pay for it?
Right,
So,
and we need
you know,
additional
but
personnel.
the nice thing about the drainage district is there's a mechanism to pay for it, but there isn't such a thing for these. The broad view things that were missing were Is there wetlands section, open space section, performance bond section, fees, I would like a purpose section at the start of legislation, but those are things that we can put in an email and take care of.
Okay.
And then, this is also, an ongoing issue, not necessarily, with you, but with other PDDs and subdivisions, our whole, issuance of building permits and road dedication process. It's silent as to what we're gonna do here. We do have in our town code and highway standards specific requirements that may be unique to Malta, but we need to address when the top coat's going in and what are the requirements, and obviously you got a large development, but,
In the timeline of it.
right. So I would like to cut those type of things off at the pass if we
Yeah.
could with a plan that's agreeable to the developer and the town.
Yeah, agreed.
We have the ability to
Yeah.
draft it into the language. So those were my initial review, and then, like I said, some language issues, but I can email those concerns.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I got a question. Has Roger accepted the street width and code going through, well, it is all private anyways, right?
No, there's a
Well-
town road. The-
So,
the-
so this.
It is town road.
This is gonna be, this is gonna be the town road. So this action here and this here, Roger, likes 80 feet, obviously. At the workshop that we had previously, I asked what his specific, reasons were and what he was trying to accomplish, and he talked about being able to get the sidewalks and the 10 foot of grassed area and the utilities. And we were able to show him that all those things fit in there within 60 feet. And that in this instance, 80 didn't make sense and we couldn't really accommodate that. Especially when you start looking at, if you make this 80 feet, it destroys these single-family houses. Same with the townhouses. If you now take this and bring this out another distance all the way around, it destroys the ability to do these units.
I mean, the other thing he's gonna ask about is snow storage. Like,
Right, and
where's snow storage gonna be?
and
for
we
that?
will address that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He is satisfied now.
I can't speak for Roger. I know that his concern was he likes 80 feet, and that's what Roger wants. So I can't speak for Roger, but I know he likes the 80 feet.
Oh, I forgot one thing, minor item, but mailbox kiosks?
Oh, yeah.
We would do mailbox.
Yeah, is that, so then they're,
But that should probably be in the
gotta be in your
legislation,
HOA
right,
and
for the HOA.
the maintenance of them and.
I know where that's coming from.
Yes, you do.
Yes, they do. But it would be mailbox kiosks throughout the project, so yes. We can add those to the plan for now, just as a draft, and fine tune them as we go through the process with the planning board. But, understood.
I should know this, I'm just curious. Which school district is that in?
Shen,
This is in Shannon.
Thank you.
Yep.
what else? Peanut gallery? Comments? Questions?
Adrian?
Native species?
We did, I think they did ask, one of the kind of sticking points in our new legislation is the percentage over the required zoning. So if you can just put something together, or not the required zoning, percentage over what the existing zoning is.
I want to ask that question because, you and I actually, when we talked briefly, I mentioned that I had heard that at the workshop meeting. And I asked why the town board would want to handcuff themselves with any future project that might come in that might make a lot of sense. There are
We
so
haven't
many
made any
examples.
decisions yet.
Yeah.
They're still working on it. And some of the questions are, is what are we considering? Because obviously, all of this is part of the project, but
Right.
it's
Right.
not ability.
Yeah. Because, and listen, this is my opinion and that's all it is, and it's just me, but these PDDs are a great tool for the towns to address projects and different times of are seasoned developing, there are different projects that make sense. 20 years ago, maybe this didn't make sense, but there are projects that come and go, and we don't maybe know what they're gonna be, but down the road, there may be a project that comes along that the town says, oh my gosh, you know, those guys handcuffed us to a great project down the road, and now what do we have to do? Now they have to go through this whole process again. So, my personal opinion is you should give yourself a lot of flexibility, you and all the future boards.
Yeah.
You're all here for a limited time. None of us are 20. I don't see anybody at this table that's 20, right? You're pretty
There's
close, but-
there's somebody in the room that's in his 20s.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Couple of years.
I don't know what your metric
Yeah.
is for calculating density, if it's,
I don't think we know.
Right.
I don't know if you guys have come to any conclusions at all.
no.
Yeah.
And the other thing I said is, how do you do a conversion over from industrial or commercial space to residential? You go, well, what does that number look like? Now you're gonna come up with this arbitrary figure, and hopefully it works in future projects that we've never seen before. So it's just my opinion. I love the PDD aspect, and it gives you so much flexibility to not handcuff yourself into specifics like, what does the calculation look like?
Every developer never likes a cap. We need a cap.
No, that's not true. There are things that I can appreciate that. I'm just saying, this is not for me. This gives you the flexibility down the road. And you're not gonna be here in 10 or 20 years,
No, I
but
got
that
that,
future
but-
board,
You
you know?
I don't want to have a debate about it, but we'll leave it open-ended. Hey, you're doing a PDD, we're gonna give you a bonus density for 600% over what's over there. All right. Why not make it 1,000 over? Because there is no limit, so. You can always change the law. If the
Gotcha,
right project does come around,
right, right,
but it gives everyone at least a base where to go by.
yeah,
It's just something we're gonna be asked.
They're
So,
gonna come up with that number,
yeah.
not us,
yeah,
non-smart people.
speak for yourself.
So I do have a question about how the PDD, the changes that you're working on are going to potentially impact us. Let's say you did come up with a number that was, really impacted the density on this project. What happens? Because, and we got it in, we were grandfathered in from the move forward process, but how are we potentially impacted if your PDD changes occur before we get this approved at the town board level? What happens?
Doesn't happen yet.
I know, well,
Oh, it's a great question.
Depends on the
Yeah.
process.
We don't wanna put something in there that, you know.
Well,
Moratorium, too.
right,
so this PDD is its own independent legislative action.
correct.
So the board has its discretion to adopt and proceed with it. However, it would be potentially difficult for the board to substantially deviate from, an ongoing, I'm not saying it's a legal requirement, but just a concern of theirs might be, hey, we get it, he was in first, they're not subject necessarily to this PDD legislation. But if these are legitimate concerns we have for PDDs in our comprehensive plan and our zoning, they should be talked about and addressed. And in transparency to you guys sooner rather than later, to make sure that the project makes sense. I mean, I think the major items that were discussed in the workshops, and I don't know if you were able to go to any of those PDD workshops.
There's nothing,
Yeah, I
it's
remember.
kinda obvious, you heard it, nothing there's major.
Well, that percentage of underlying zoning.
Right.
If you were to put a number on that, I think
Then
that
that- right.
potentially could have
Right.
an impact. And that's a big one, right, at the end of the day. Right, it could be, yeah, if you came up with it,
I don't think that's the intent, though,
right,
of getting in before the moratorium, at least it's not my intent.
right.
Right, so I mean, you guys worked with the board in advance, I mean, they, again, it's a legislative decisions, things change, if the number of units in there is proposed like you have it now, and they're gonna have to make sure that they're comfortable with that number of units, and my point is that should be specific in the legislation, what the breakdown of the units is, the maximum number of units. And I think that would cover you from legally having to comply with the new requirements because it's defined in separately adopted legislation.
And we have included that in
Right.
there. I just didn't want to be in a position where we're moving forward, all of a sudden, maybe we're not approved quite yet, maybe we're the next month, and something changes, and all of a sudden, it's like, well, wait a minute, your PDD doesn't comply with the PDD requirements that we just changed. And the last thing
Right.
we want to do is get into that position. I don't know what your timeline is to get the PDD modifications completed. Do you know what they're?
A couple more months, probably.
Yeah, they're hopefully early next year, we'll have the zoning complete. Tonight, there's a action to extend the moratorium, so to complete that process. But I think that's one of the reasons I raised like the public benefit, because it's a large issue in our PDD update. You're not going to be complying with what's adopted there. You're going to be, you've proposed one, and if the town board thinks that's sufficient, but to the extent of the transparency issue and the defined, well, you recall from the craziness of South Shore when people were saying this was a bribe. I mean, like, no, this is legally allowed, good planning techniques, and no one's, putting an envelope of money anywhere. We just want it up front. So those were the large issues, the cap, some of the requirements with the, what the benefit is, to make sure that we have a list of a good public benefit for these things and that they're addressed and identified. So I think as we get, the legislation moving forward, it would be in the best interest to kind of, not to rewrite your PDD based upon that, but those large items to make sure as a board, we're properly addressing them and are satisfied with it. But no, in no way was I suggesting that you're gonna be required to comply with those. Just, those were the major items, and any other ones, we can shoot an email over saying, this is a heads up, because as this goes forward, the public hearing, these are the issues that are gonna come up, and, why is this one proceeding? Okay, it was grandfathered, or it was filed before the moratorium, but we're addressing these concerns, right? These are, our plan is just as good as it would be under the other one.
Well, you heard me from day one say, we're looking for transparency and with the town, from our perspective and yours, that if the project makes sense for the town, that we want to move it forward. If it doesn't, let us know now, so we're not wasting your time and our time and money and.
Our plan going forward is, like it says, it's not meant to sabotage or drop
Oh, I
a
understand.
New Year's surprise on you.
Right.
Say, look what we're gonna do now.
Right.
No, I think we're well.
No,
placed going forward.
100%, I appreciate that, and it's not that would be your intent. Some things happen inadvertently, and you go, oh, surprise, I can tell you every town code in the capital region, if you go back and look at it, there are things that consequences that people did not anticipate. That's why you have to do revisions to
Yeah.
the town code and planning all the time. So I was just trying to address that now, but I appreciate you saying that,
Yeah,
thank you,
That's not the.
Yeah. thank you. Okay, what's the next step for us? We need to work on these changes, which
Updating that,
we'll
right.
start right away.
And Steve will share
Great.
his other comments. And yeah, get that done, and then I think we'll probably review it again, based on what you come up with on those remarks. I will decide whether or not we have to have another workshop. I think probably to sit down just to see, but then, and then I think next do we approve it and it goes to the planning board, correct?
I think didn't we already approve it?
No,
No.
we referred it to the planning board and they gave us their recommendations, right?
The planning board recommended approval.
Right,
Subject to.
Right,
The launch
the changes,
Right.
yeah,
all right.
right. Which I think we've addressed most of those, and then you had a couple of changes, but
Yeah, I mean,
we
you
really
addressed the
tried to
critical
listen to
ones,
what they
right,
said, yes. Okay. Excellent.
This will come up at some point because, but the structure of the HOA and the condos and who's responsible for what. You have architectural renderings in here, but I'm assuming that your HOA or your condo declarations are gonna have typical architectural requirements to maintain, to care for, to keep the value of and the appearance of these units up. So those documents typically are gonna get reviewed.
By the town, and I think we addressed that in
Yeah.
here too. Yep.
But, correct, so to the board's point of view, that standard that we're gonna approve now needs to be paid attention to because they're gonna put that in going forward. And, the HOA then is going to be responsible for enforcing that requirement and upkeeping these properties. So we get a project that lasts and looks that way, but it often is overlooked because that document's this thick, comes over on the night before approval. So if there are any requirements that haven't been discussed or needed, you want to work that part out.
Will
Now,
will the HOA agreements be part of will they be an appendix or anything, or? I mean, when do we review those?
Site plan,
yeah,
Oh,
site
the
plan, typically,
current planning.
yeah, they submit the actual document to be reviewed and,
And what are we looking at for HOAs,
the-
separate HOAs?
And just for clarification, so the HOAs don't get submitted to the Attorney General's office until the project's done and approved. We would submit our drafts to the town, you'd review them to make sure that they incorporated what was in the PDD, and then we would move forward. And that's a multi-month process, as you're painfully aware of, with the AG's office. So, yeah. So there's gonna be one basic HOA for the whole project, which will address things like the trail maintenance and the clubhouse and things like that, right? That everybody would pay into. And then there would be separate HOAs within, so there would be one here as well. There may or may not be one for this, if we decided to do maintenance free, and I don't know, Jeff doesn't know, I think it's up in the air. Same here. So you would have a couple different homeowners associations and then one master that everybody paid into. So this homeowners association and this one, and potentially this, would pay into the master so that everybody has access to the clubhouse and the trail system and so forth. The apartment owner also would pay into
Right.
that HOA. And then they would all have individual drainage district payments were assessed
Right.
depending on the uses
But they're
within
right.
each one of those uses, that's correct. Yeah. Yep. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Fairly straightforward process, but something that we would certainly share with, we'd get draft documents and share with the town prior.
yeah, again, it's gonna be dealt with at the planning board site, but
Right.
if there are specific requirements of, they may be minor, they may be large, but that you want in there, that's your chance to make sure they're in there because it's going up to the planning board, for that site plan review. So
I mean,
I'm
I
not
honestly
saying-
can't think of anything offhand because I don't really know that much about HOAs.
Have you done this in the past? Have you had certain requirements in your PDDs?
Well,
Other
yeah.
than just review by the town prior to being submitted?
Not necessarily in that regard, but what I see is, for example, issues where things like future connectivity and those type of things need to be in documents that are binding not just on a developer who's no longer around, but on that HOA. I'm not saying there's anything in here, but, so I'm trying to think of with this site where there'd be a specific concern, but
I'm struggling with
The
one.
trail.
Well, the trail system here, but that's gonna be owned and maintained by the HOA, right? This is gonna be a town road, so this is gonna provide access to the north if anything ever gets developed down here. They already have their development, and then that's it, and then you've got the bypass. So I don't know
Right.
that there's anything here, but the trail is gonna kind of provide that connection all along the
Right.
frontage of this. I'm not sure there's anything else. And then, of course, you have the topo and Zim Smith and the highway system in the back. So I'm not sure there's any other connectivity that would have to be contemplated. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to think how to ask this question. So just to be perfectly clear, there will be a connection from the sidewalks or whatever to the Zim Smith Trail? Or
So,
no?
so the bypass, on the other side of the bypass, there's a connection for Zim Smith. We're gonna bring our connection, our sidewalk right down to the end here, and then the adjacent project, the multifamily senior project, they're doing sidewalks down. So their sidewalk would connect to ours, which would go all the way up to Taddeo, and then the town would.
This is our project.
The town's
And it
project.
connects to the Zim Smith.
That,
At
well,
the-
just
at
on the
the-
other
at
side
the
of the
bypass.
bypass,
Zip
yeah.
Smith is south of the bypass.
Right.
So we're
Right.
not gonna, Zip Smith doesn't touch the property.
Yeah, it's like, it's right over
Right.
here, yeah,
In the back, but they
Right.
gotta go down.
that's right. And then we proposed
Be
to,
an issue with that if Barbara Connor wants to walk that route, it won't be a private trail.
No,
it's, no, no.
How about the trail going from there?
Right, and then we'll have a natural trail that winds down from the property all the way down to the back.
For basically an amenity for,
Yeah.
Is that a private trail that's open to?
You know, it is a private trail, but typically what ends up happening, I think, with these is that people just use them. Nobody's gonna police these trails.
Well, who's surprised?
That's some of the problem that I'm.
To your fall,
into,
sure.
No, because also, you end up having insurance that covers that.
I live in an HOA with trails.
Okay, you know.
We have
But,
that problem in a forest where it's supposedly a private trail.
Yeah.
but it's used by everybody until there's an accident, and then they all start putting fingers
Yeah.
at everybody.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah,
Get
when I
it.
had dogs, I walked my dogs.
That's what happens. Everybody gets sued when there's a problem. Everybody, even if you're not involved, everybody, it's
There will
unfortunate.
be an alternate route.
So,
There, absolutely, yes.
so we also talked about, now that we're back on that, about possible connections. Just so that like this person doesn't have to go all the way down there to get to the trail. Planning recommended just a couple of spots, you know, if you can have something between the buildings. I think, let's say this one was,
That's over here.
yes, I think they were looking at it backwards, but someplace in here, maybe, or maybe even a little more to go
Over
over
to the
there.
trail, yeah.
And then over here, I think it was up here, so short distance,
Gotcha, okay.
just
Yeah, yeah.
just a connection to make it easier for
Yep.
those residents to be able to access your internal trail.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Refresh
sense.
my memory, it's apartments.
Condos,
Condos, townhouses, single family.
Got it.
Yep.
anything else? Anything from you?
No, I think that's great.
No? Steve, you're all set?
No, thank you.
Staff, everybody good? All right then,
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you all.
you.
Got a half hour.
yeah, that's right.
Awesome.